Hello, men. Hello, Mgtows. I wanted to talk a little bit today about the female voice and how some men only hear the female voice, and that goes a little deeper. Some men only feel the female voice in reading, writing, anything they're told, unless it comes from a female, is disregarded. They can't hear the male voice. I don't know where this originates at, but there's a great example. You go to Wikipedia, and it's kind of funny because they don't see it. You go to Wikipedia, and there's all these great answers for what gynocentrism is, and we all know what gynocentrism is. And their reference points are Susan Vanker, Esther Villa, Christina Hoff Sommers, and Catherine Young. Now, I see this around the manosphere when men can only hear the female voice and like laugh out loud feminism, or like the Honey Badgers, Karen Strong, or they can only hear it from that blonde chick, whatever his name, in the belly of the beast. They can only hear the message if it comes from the female voice. Now, I've noticed this at work too. There's a lot of men that you're going to work with that if you say something and it's correct, they're going to disregard it. But a female can walk up 2 minutes later and say the exact same thing, and they hear it. It's the female voice. So we delve into this a little bit in society, but we really don't go into the attractiveness of the female voice, or even the sense of the female voice. We see this in some myths and fairy tales, like the sirens. You know, they sing from the cliffs, and then they draw the men into, you know, the cliffs, and then their boat sinks and they all die. I like that example. But did you know that the brain uses complex sounds? It dissects complex sounds and melodic sounds and algorithms and things like that. And the same goes for the woman's voice, according to some scientists, a lot of scientists. The wife's voice isn't just music to her husband's ear. It's melodic to the brain. There's an algorithm that goes on there, and men get hooked to this. There's a natural highness and a feeling in the woman's voice. It has a musical sense to it. Men get addicted to hearing that. They can only hear the female voice in that capacity, while men's voices, they attract in the mind's eye. There's visual aids that a men's voice does when you're conjuring up imagery or something, like listening to me talk sometimes. I'll conjure up imagery. Most men, they prefer higher pitched voices. There's a lot of good articles that men prefer higher pitched voices, and you automatically can imagine body size in relation to hip ratio, and high voices and smaller bodies. It's debatable in some things. Some universities that did sampling of the woman's voice and said it was kind of debatable, but I don't think it's debatable at all. But what we're talking about here is gynocentrism, and it goes a lot farther than the female voice, the female word. Did you ever wonder why Esther Villa's book was so popular? Susan Sommers' book was so popular. What's that other woman that writes that book? She writes it, The Men's Strike. Why it was so popular, why men took to these books, and they hear the female voice, the subtle rhythm in their speech. It's gynocentric in its nature. It's gynocentric for men to only hear that. If you can only hear the female voice. So what we're talking about here sometimes too is psychological arousal. Psychological arousal, just being a little different in some cases. It's just a little different than your mental arousal. When a lot of times, and a lot of evidence is going to show that in situations such as work and at home, women's voices They change and they manipulate their voice in certain situations. Women voices sound more competent when speaking on a phone to their bosses rather than to who they feel is subordinates or peers. Men do this also too. They're more competent when speaking to peers and other people like that. Individuals tend to raise their pitch of their voice when attempting to deceive other people. You should start really thinking about how you get manipulated by the female voice. The female voice is like those sirens on that cliff, drawing your ship in to sink it. And that's all I wanted to talk about today, is how most men, a lot of men, not a lot of Mgtow men, but I notice a lot of MRAs, they only hear the female voice. Not just in voice, but in script, in writing, in life. They're manipulated by it. Thanks a lot, men. Keep being Mgtow, and thanks a lot. Take care.